Coming up next on the Wet Fly Swing podcast.
Actually, my grandfather bought it sight unseen. It was a mining claim. Like, this area was kind of developed back in the late 1800s. It was a mining claim. It was patented in 1896, and he ended up buying it sight unseen. And him and I come by boat to look at it one day.
Do you remember what he paid for it?
He paid $5,000 for it. Yeah, he bought it in '62, and we opened camp '63. Yeah,
in '63. And if you were to sell it, you probably don't want to ever sell it. But if you were to sell it, you get more than $5,000 out of that thing, probably.
Yeah, probably. I might double my money.
Yeah.
That was Terry Kluke taking us back to the start of Merkel's camp. World record muskie, pike, and a family tradition today on the Wet Fly Swing podcast.
Welcome to the Wet Fly Swing Fly Fishing Show, where you discover tips, tricks, and tools from the leading names in fly fishing today.
Hey, how you doing today? Thanks for stopping by the show. Is there a show topic that you'd love to hear us dig into more? Maybe something that we've done in the past but we haven't heard in a while? I want to make sure I'm getting that out to you. So if you can send me an email, dave@wetflyswing.com. Today's episode is sponsored by Bearvault, who has the perfect solution to keep your provisions secure while heading into the backcountry. You can head over to wetflyswing.com/Bearvault right now to check out this must-have solution to keep your food safely stored while in the backcountry. That's Bearvault, BEARVAULT. We're also sponsored by FishHound Expeditions, putting together remote Alaskan wilderness trips for that trip of a lifetime. We're going to be heading up there really soon and going to be mousing for rainbows, chasing some salmon, doing it all while on the river kicking back. So I'm going to be excited to share this one with you. If you want to check out FishHound right now, wetflyswing.com/FishHound. Connect with Adam and the great trips he has going on in Alaska. Terry Kluke takes us up into Ontario, Canada to focus on his home water for muskie, pike, bass, and a whole bunch of other species. We find out when they get rolling on their muskie season, what the best lure is for muskie, and some of the past shows that have highlighted this big lake, this part of the world. He's had some big guests that have come up there and done some filming. So we talk about that a little bit. And I will say ice is not that far off. So let's find out how to put this one together right now. So without further ado, here we go. Terry Kluke from merkelscamp.com.
How you doing, Terry?
Good, Dave. How about yourself?
Pretty good. Thanks for coming on the show today. We're going to dig into some on your camp, the Merkel's camp that you have up there in, we're going to dig into exactly where it is. It's up in the Midwest, and you dig into some pike and muskie fishing. We'll talk about that today. We might even talk about a little bit of hunting, because that's something that's, right now it's August. And we're going to be going into the hunting season, we're already, I'm thinking about it a lot. So, and I know up the Midwest is hunting or fishing the bigger thing in the Midwest?
Probably fishing would be the most popular, because there's more area and more time for that. Like, the hunting season is basically, it starts, we have people coming on Saturday to start hunting bears, but you have about 6 or 8 weeks in the fall that you can hunt in, and in the summertime you have like 4 months of it. So yeah, there's a lot more.
Yeah, that's a lot more. So on the bear hunting, I'm curious about that one a little bit. So on the bear, how are they? I mean, is that bear pretty good to eat?
Oh, bear is excellent. One of the guys I talked to last night there, and he's down at our outpost cabin we have there, and he couldn't believe how good it tastes. He wants to come back and hunt again. He was hunting with us last fall, and he got a bear, and they do a bear and a fishing trip. Some guys do bear hunts, grouse hunts, and fishing all combined in all 1 week. So it works out pretty good for them.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So you could do it all. So somebody could come up there and do some fishing. When is the pike muskie? When's the best time for that?
Well, pike are all summer long, and the muskies are all summer long, but the season actually for muskies opens on the third Saturday in June.
Okay. That's
when you can actually keep one if you want. But on our lake, we have a 54-inch minimum, because we have a lot of pretty good sized muskies. Yeah, we had some new people in camp this week there, and they've caught one muskie every day between the three of them, and that have boated at least one muskie every day. A couple of days with 3 or 4, but they've seen 5 or 6 different ones. But last night when he came in, the young guy, the son, which is around 25, he couldn't stop talking. He said, the fish I just saw today was just unbelievable.
Yeah.
He said they boated 52 inches already, and this fish is way bigger, he said.
No kidding.
So we start a lot of times we get a lot of guys come up fly fishing for pike in the springtime, first thing in the spring when they're right up in the weeds, and they're pretty active right first thing as soon as the ice goes out.
Oh, okay.
But these guys are fishing, like we fish pretty much a foot to about 4 feet, 5 feet of water all summer long for pike and muskie.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, for fly fishing, it works out really good for us.
Yeah. So for you, pike versus muskie, what's the one you're choosing if you had to choose one?
Well, I go for muskies all the time because that's what I try. You're trying for muskies, but you're going to catch pike anyway.
Yeah.
And we do that kind of stuff. I did a thing for Musky 360 2 weeks ago. They were fishing on one lake and weren't catching any fish, and they give me a call and they came over here for a day and we caught 3. So that was kind of nice.
Musky 360, is that like a TV program?
Yeah, it's a podcast thing for to Joe Bucher.
Okay.
He's a big musky guy. He comes up to camp quite often and fishes the lake a lot. So.
Oh, nice.
He does a TV show there.
Oh, good. Is that something we could find out? I guess, are you on an episode out there?
Well, this is what he did. This is a different guy. He's affiliated with Joe, but he does all their podcasts and network stuff and things on the computer for them and that.
Yeah. Oh, I got you. All right. And why is pike not, why is muskie the one you go for more over pike if you had to choose one?
Well, it's a harder fish to catch by far, and it's more of a trophy fish, like a prestigious kind of fish to catch. Like pike,
is it bigger?
They're bigger. Like you catch small ones. You catch like 20-inch and 30-inch and 40-inch muskies. But I took a picture back in the 80s when we did a study on muskies, and that fish was over 80 inches long. So they get
big guys.
We got the thing is I go for is we have world record fish in the lake. So if you catch one on a fly rod, that's even.
Oh, Roy, what is the world record?
Well, right now the world record is 59 pounds, and it'd be 62 inches long. Basically, that's right around where it is. There's 3 or 4 that are really close in that range, and we have them here quite a bit bigger than that. So, but you just got to catch them. That's the hard part.
Yeah, right. So they're out, and then let's talk about that. So catching them. So it sounds like you do a little bit of like fly and conventional, or how's that look?
Yeah, I do conventional, and myself, I do pretty much 99% fly fishing. Because it's just harder, harder to hook them, and they are hard to hook. Like these fish will have, like if you're conventional fishing and you've got a 10-inch bait with 3 great big treble hooks on it, and you can't even see that lure. You'll fight that fish for 5-10 minutes, and it'll come up and spit that lure out at you. So when you're fishing for the fly, it's a lot more challenging. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's it.
And a lot of times, like with the muskies, they'll strike right at the boat, and you got to do like a figure 8, or else just bring it in and draw it in front of you like a L or a J, and just so you can see, because they follow. They're notorious for following in rather than just biting. Very seldom you'll catch a muskie when you cast way out and you're starting to strip in from farther out. You'll catch them right close to the boat. So that makes it a little harder too, because every time you cast, you have to start over again every time, because you got to bring your fly right to the boat. So,
well, let's. I want to dig into some more on pike or some muskie and pike, and then talk about your lodge. But let's take it back real quick to your start of your fly fishing. I like to hear the intro story. So how did you? Well, and I don't know if that probably blends right into with the lodge that you're at. I know you've been up there for many years, right?
Yeah. I was here when we first started. My grandfather kept telling me I was the first person to step on the property. So, but anyway.
Was it 60s?
Yeah, it was 1963. Yeah, we started the camp up and did that kind of stuff. So, yeah. But for fly fishing, I guided a guy that wanted to come up years and years ago, like probably close to 30 years ago now, I guess. And I said, sure, we'll give it a try. So I was guiding, and he kept having way more follows than I was with the conventional stuff. And he hooked up a couple, and I was trying to get him to catch the fish anyway as a guide, but I got kind of intrigued on it. So I got a fly rod about a year later and started learning how to fly fish. And I pretty much was self-taught, and I doing it that way. And I'm the only guy around the whole country that fly fishes. Like, nobody else around here fly fishes. They all look at me, they go, "You fly fish?" I said, "Yeah."
Oh, really? So you're the only one up at your lake. You don't see many people fly fishing?
No, there's nobody. There's nobody
Huh.
around that fly fishes anywhere in the area around too much yet.
And where are you? What area? Where are you at?
Well, we're basically, I'd say the easiest way to find us is we're 100 miles straight north of International Falls, Minnesota. They call International Falls the icebox of the United States. Well, we're 100 miles north of that and a lot colder.
Oh, really? Yeah. So, so your summers are your summers short, or when's that? When's the ice off, and then when does the ice on?
Well, ice is off usually by about the middle of May, and it'll be back on again by usually pretty much guaranteed by the middle of November.
Yeah.
So
That's in November. So
we get some guys come up deer hunting in November, and they get their deer first day or whatever, and they want to go fishing. I said, "Well, wait till morning and see if the lake's frozen or not." And they go, "What do you mean? Wide open." In the morning, it's frozen.
All right. Wow. So you've got 6 months of frozen lakes, and then 6 months of summertime. How do you like the winters, the 6 months when it's all frozen?
Well, we ice fish all the time, and we just yeah, and we have snowshoe trails. We have people that come up in the wintertime for ice fishing and snowmobiling and snowshoeing and things like that. So we stay fairly busy all year long. Winter, we don't push it a whole lot because a lot of people don't want to come up in January for sure, because in January it's usually around 40 below.
Oh, it is. Wow.
Yeah.
40 below.
But we still go outside.
You go outside? So I mean, when you go at 40 below, are you going outside, and are you out there for hours at a time?
Yeah, we'll go, like, if it's 40, typically we won't go very long, but if it warms up to 30 below, we'll go snowshoeing or something like that, and have a little fire out in the bush and cook up some sausages and have coffee or hot chocolate, and spend probably 5 or 6 hours out in the bush. And
oh, you will? Yeah, you guys are hard. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I remember one of the times I was up. I haven't been in 40 below or whatever many times, but up in Alaska, I was in it once. It was like 50 below, I think, and I was outside for about 10 minutes, and that was about all I could handle. I had to go back.
Well,
I had to go back inside.
It's kind of like being used to 100-degree weather. Like, I just got off the phone with a guy from Texas that's coming up next week, and he said it's been 105 for like 30-something days in a row, and they had just got their first rain. So yeah, it's just kind of what you're used to, I guess. So
yeah.
Yeah.
How do you find you got this lodges? There must be other lodges around in the area. How do you find your new people coming up, or do they just find you?
Well, mostly it's word of mouth. People come back up and they tell somebody else when they go back down again, and that kind of stuff. And it's getting to be a little bit more with the internet. People are going to the website and looking at things. Like, we had a couple that just left this morning, and they came totally off the internet. And that's kind of almost unusual for us, but it's starting to develop that way a wee bit. Yeah. But there's a lot of times, like, we used to go to sports shows and travel around and do that kind of thing for the winter. That was kind of our kind of vacation break anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. And you don't do the shows anymore?
We're thinking about maybe doing one this year. Just mostly what it is you're going down and meeting all the people that already come up, kind of thing, and they bring somebody new to the booth and talk to them, and that kind of thing. So yeah.
What's the show, if you're going to go to one show or a couple shows this next year? What would they be?
Well, the one show we're doing just a conventional fishing show in Chicago.
Uh-huh.
And then we're going to the fly fishing show in Atlanta in February.
Oh yeah.
We're doing that one. So yeah.
Yeah, doing the fly fishing show. And what's the conventional show? Do you remember what that one's called?
It's an all Canada show.
Oh, all Canada.
And they have a circuit. We've been going to those since they started, pretty much. and it's kind of a good circuit because it's just all Canadian lodges.
Oh,
So,
really?
People that are going to those shows are kind of interested in going to Canada, where a lot of the other ones have everything, from nuts and bolts to surfboards to whatever, eh?
Right. Gotcha. And how close are you to Canada?
How close to the United States?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're 100 miles north of International Falls, the border.
Oh, yeah.
Chicago is like 15-hour drive.
Oh, 15-hour drive, yeah.
Yeah. So that's pretty much standard. These guys come from Texas. They're driving up. We get guys from Sacramento. We get guys from Los Angeles, Florida, all over the place. So 2019, there was New Mexico, Maryland, and New Jersey were the only states we didn't have somebody from.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I wasn't. Yeah, I forgot. I was kind of thinking you were down in the States, but yeah, you're up in Canada. That's right. That's now it's making more sense. Of course. Yeah, you're way up there. So Merkel's camp. I'm looking at it now. So you're in. Yeah, that's pretty amazing. Yeah, you got wow. Hudson Bay is way above you, but that's to the north, and you're on Ontario, right?
Yeah, we're in Ontario. Yeah. I've worked up in Hudson Bay. I worked up on the coastlines up that. I was a lineman for years.
Oh, wow.
So we serviced all the reserves up north and things like that, and all the places up there. So I was kind of lucky. I get to fish all the way up to there.
If you drive up, could you, from where you're at, if you start driving up north towards Hudson Bay, can you just, are there, fishing opportunities all the way up, pretty much lake opportunities?
Yeah, there are. You pretty much have to have somebody to take you out or have a boat of some kind. There's not a lot of shore fishing in the areas. It's all lakes. There's not a lot of rivers. The farther north you go, then you get into some speckled trout and things like that, some of the smaller rivers. But around here, it's all lake fishing.
Yeah, it's like this is great. Yeah, totally. I've been to Ontario only, I think, a couple times, and it wasn't even for fishing, which is, Ontario has some good resources. We've done some steelhead. We've done a couple of steelhead episodes as well. But yeah, it seems like pike and muskie. Would you say those are the two species that people really in your area that is maybe add bass?
And smallmouth, yeah. Smallmouth is a really popular one. Like that's what we get most times when I get people come up fly fishing. They're coming up for the smallmouth.
Oh, they are.
And then they get into pike and muskies, and the next year they come is for pike and muskie. Smallmouth are bait.
Yeah, they're bait.
Yeah. Like we have one guy from Atlanta comes up all the time. There's one group of guys, they fly fish, and he says, I'm not going to waste my time anymore going anywhere else. He says, because a lot of times I'm happy with catching a trout in a stream somewhere that might be 20 inches long. He said, here they start at 25 or 30 inches. And I said, yeah, that's kind of the way it is. So.
Oh, wow. Yeah. This is good. Wow. So pike, muskie, bass, and right now. So I guess that's the thing. I always like to kind of think planning a trip, if I was to come, or somebody was to come up there and visit, I guess that's the first thing. Unless you want to go ice fishing, you're coming sometime after like May or June. When would be the best time? If you say, if I want to come up there and I want to hit, I want to focus on, hopefully get a muskie, get some pike, maybe even some bass, what would you recommend?
Well, you can come pretty much any time. It doesn't change.
What about do you guys have any other factors that would make the trip worse or better, like bugs, stuff like that?
Well, there's always bugs around, and stuff like that, but nobody, it's surprisingly, people don't complain about it. They're not that bad. Sit around the fire in the evening time and have a few beer and relax and BS about the day kind of thing. You'll get a few mosquitoes here and there, but it's not really a big thing. We put a thermocell out or something, and they're gone.
What do you put out?
A thermocell.
Oh, like one of those bug zappers?
Yeah, and it's actually just a little. You put a little. It's got a butane flame thing in it. It's got a little cartridge on it. They're quiet. And it just emits a little kind of a gas, I guess, in the air, and it keeps them. Yeah.
What about when you're on the lake in a boat? Are you getting bit up there a little bit?
No, mosquito wise, no. We have these little things called ankle biters. They're like a stable fly. Yeah, like a house fly or a stable fly. That's kind of what they're like. But they really do go after your ankles.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, it's amazing because they hang around the bottom of the boat where your feet are, kind of thing. So, and they bite. But that's about it. Little bug spray and they're gone. But it's not a big
deal.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, so anytime. So I would be thinking anytime for me, I would probably pick the best time when I don't have some other trips going. So maybe not during steelhead. So maybe, maybe the like July would be.
July is good, first part of August. And for fly fishing, it's like I said earlier, we fish shallow all summer long. So you don't have to pick a time of year where the fish are going to be up in 2 or 3 feet of water because they're that shallow all summer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we come out there. So let's just say I'm coming at. Well, I guess right now we're into the mid-August date, but we could even say September. So like you said, September, October still are times when you could get some muskie.
Oh yeah, September and October is when people we get people that come at different times of the year, but they come the same time every year. Like one group will come in September, one will come in May, some come in July.
Okay.
They come the same time of year every year, and they target, like in the fall, typically you'll catch some big walleyes and pike and musky, and that's what they go for. And in the summer, we get guys come in, they want to fish big walleyes and pike and musky, and they get them too. So it just depends on when you have the time off. That's the biggest thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you have the walleye too. So if it was, let's just say it was mid-September, let's just pick that time, mid-September in that period. What would be, so we come in, what do? We fly into, what's the airport if somebody's coming in?
Well, a lot of people if they're going to fly in, you can fly into International Falls, and we're 2.5 hour drive from International Falls up. And then if you want to fly into Canada, they fly to Thunder Bay, which is 3.5 hours from us, and they drive up. So that goes through Toronto, and there's connections that way. But through International Falls, you come up through Minneapolis area.
Okay.
Some groups of guys, they'll get together. Like we get a group that comes in 2 weeks from now, and they're from both coasts. There's about 8 to 10 guys every year pretty much go to our outpost cabin, and they fly into Minneapolis and rent a van and drive up.
Yeah.
So, and we're 7 hours from Minneapolis, so it's not
7 hours. So it's not bad. So that's it. So a little road trip up north, and so once you get into the lodge, what do people expect? So they're coming in, they drive up. Are you pretty much remote? Nothing else around you for miles and miles?
No, there's like we have a little town around the corner of us, like 2 miles away. It's 200 people, and then there's a town at the other end of the lake. Dryden is where it is. Like people are looking kind of the area. If you look on maps, you'll see Dryden, and we're just 15 miles east of that. So they're on the lake there. But when you go out, you're going to go pretty much all summer long. You'll spend the day on the lake, and you might see 8 or 10 boats, and typically they're boat camp.
Gotcha. So that would be it then. If we're coming up, so I'm going to drive up. You got a nice little 7 hour cool trip up, and it probably is an amazing drive up. Is that 7 hours pretty cool? That drive? Yeah,
you're driving through Minnesota. You're leaving you're just on the edge of the prairies, Minneapolis is, and then you're going to go into the trees and things like that. And then once you get up into Canada, it's a good introduction because there's absolutely nothing. There's no houses. There's just one road, and that's it. That's what you have up here.
Today's episode is sponsored by LakeLady Rods. You can reach LakeLady right now at 218-251-2626. Check in with Chris and see what he has going. That's the best way to let him know that you're interested, or at least find out what kind of rods he has for you. I've got a fine-tuned specimen that I'm going to be breaking out here on the river this next week. A blue rod, a gunmetal reel seat, a sweet Portuguese handle, and it's got all the fixins, all the bells and whistles, including that nice jungle cock. This is a 9-foot 4-weight, and it just casts like a dream. I'm excited to be getting in on this one, and actually I might let the kids use this rod on this trip, even though they got a couple of fiberglass rods, which maybe we'll switch it up. Maybe I'll let the kids use the Chris's LakeLady rod, and I'm going to use the fiberglass. I think we got let's see, I guess we got the 8-footer, 7-footer, and 8-footer. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to break out the old fiberglass this trip. But if you want to check out what Chris has going, he also works on bamboo rods, builds those from scratch, all sorts of good stuff going there. You can check in with him right now at LakeLady Rods. And the best thing, like I said earlier, is just give him a call, 218-251-2626. And if you can, this is the way to support this podcast. If you give Chris a call right there and just check in with him, pick his brain a little bit, ask him about rods, see what he has going. Would be awesome if we can get a bunch of people reaching out to Chris this week after this episode. Okay, back to the show.
So when you get into the lodge, paint that picture. So we drive up. What's that look like as you're coming in?
When you drive into camp, what we have is cabins, individual cabins, basically. We have 4 that are 2-bedroom, 1 3-bedroom cabin. And so you have your own facilities, cooking-wise, everything else if you want, do things. We also have meal plans we do if you want, but most of the people that come up here kind of do their own thing.
Mm-hmm. And
even for guys that I guide, like the only guys I really guide too much anymore are new people the odd time, but fly fishermen, sometimes I'll get like 2 guys come, they want somebody to drive the boat so they can fish kind of thing. And that, we have all the electric trolling motors on them and they're operated with your foot. So, and you're not moving fast. You're basically just sitting in this one spot and just moving around a little wee bit when you're fishing. So after a day or so, most guys kind of want to do their own thing anyway. It's actually really easy lake to fish. And you don't have to do a lot of spots. Like I'll guide somebody one day, and the way I guide for conventional fishing and things like that is I'll take you out and I'll show you 10 or 15 different good spots to fish and how I fish the lake. And then a person can kind of do their own thing.
Yeah. What are you looking for in a good spot, say for a good fly fishing spot?
Well, a fly fishing spot for the muskies and things like that, you're looking for a little cove with some rock and some cabbage weed area that they particularly like to have. It holds a lot of oxygen, so a lot of bait fish are in that area. And that's what you're kind of focusing on, is those kind of spots. And there's literally thousands of them within 2 or 3 miles of camp.
Of thousands of muskie?
Well, of the areas, like thousands of the little coves that you're looking for. And you get an island, you'll have like 10 of them just on one little island, like a spot.
Oh, right. So they're just
fished.
Yeah.
Anyway, like these new guys that we have in camp right now, there's a family, mom and dad and 2 sons. And like I said earlier, they've caught probably 25 muskies so far this week.
Really?
And they've been here before.
25, and this is all on conventional gear?
That's on conventional gear, but they're fishing 2 or 3 feet of water. And but he said, "You fly fish for these?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "I might have to try that next year."
Yeah.
It looks like it could be fun. I said, "Yeah, it is." Time.
That's interesting. It is interesting to hear, because I always think, I guess because obviously we have a fly fishing podcast, so we've done, a number of episodes on muskie and pike, and obviously it's been fly focused, but it's interesting to think that, the majority of people aren't fly fishing for them. It's still a small little, where would you have to go to where you feel like, they're like everybody's fly fishing, or is that it's just like few and far between?
I have to go. Basically, I go down to the White River in Arkansas, and I fish there quite a bit because we have a lot of guests from that area. So I know a lot of people that show me different spots, and we do stuff. But that's really where fly fishing starts. Like Minneapolis area, Minnesota, it's starting to get a little bit busier fly fishing wise. And mostly it's people that have come up here and fly fished with me over the years, and I've gone back down and fly fished. And it's kind of evolved from that.
Yeah. So when you're out there on the fly targeting these muskies, so you find a spot where there's some cover, like you said. What does it look like when you hook up with a fish? How are you finding that fish?
Well, you're finding the fish basically, like I said earlier, when you're stripping in. And a lot of times I tell people, don't strip too fast. Like people are strip, consistently. And a lot of times those pike will hit stuff and the muskies will hit stuff when it's sitting still. And you just twitch it and they'll take it. But like I said earlier, a lot of times the muskies, I would say 65% of the muskies are caught within 3 feet of the boat.
3 feet of the boat. And then what does your strip look like? So you cast, how far are you casting out there?
I'm casting probably 80 feet.
Oh, wow. So you're making a long cast.
Yeah.
So you make a real long cast, and that's because why? You don't want to spook
Well,
the muskie?
You're in 3 or 4 feet of water with your boat, or 5 feet of water with your boat. You're fishing right up into, basically you're fishing up into 6 and 7 inches of water. And these muskies will lay, there's a strip of weeds, typically about 3 to 5 feet from shore. And there's no weeds in between that area. And I call it the no zone. And a lot of times the muskies will lay there where the sun shines in, and they'll lay in behind those weeds, and they'll wait for smaller fish to go into the weeds, and they'll take them from there. And they stay right in that 2 and 3 feet of water.
Yeah, even the big fish.
Yeah. You'll get a 50-inch muskie in 2 to 3 feet of water. 2
or 3 feet. Wow. So, and you're casting 80 feet mainly because what is the? Because I would think that you could cast 40 feet if they're coming up, to your boat. Could you cast 40 feet instead of 80?
Oh yeah, you can. I just typically. The hard part is a lot of times when I go fly fishing, I'm so used to conventional fishing, or I'll be with somebody in the boat that is conventional fishing. So they like to be way up from shore because they make a long cast easily. So I'm trying to get that distance also, so we don't have to get the boat in too shallow water.
Oh, because you're fishing with conventional anglers.
Yeah, sometimes. But
I see.
Even when I'm by myself, like you'll have your boat out from shore, and it'll be 50, 60 feet out from shore. So I want to cast right to the shore if I can.
Yeah.
And if I'm bass fishing, I'll be like 40 feet.
Yeah. That's what I was wondering. I'm just wondering if I'm out there in a boat, I'm on my own. I just want to know, because 80 feet is a long cast, right? I mean, if I don't have to cast 80 feet.
Oh, it is. I've gotten so used to doing it. It's just harder. And as the day goes on, I'm down to 40 to 50 feet for a cast for sure, because you get played out after a while.
Yeah. What sort of gear? Like, what's your rod length, weight, stuff like that?
Well, I use a 10-foot, like a 9 weight, and I've got 11s and 12 weights and stuff. And it depends. Like the hard thing, I use some big. I got flies that are like a foot long.
Really?
Yeah, and they're hard to cast because they're catching so much wind all the time trying to cast them. So those ones are a lot shorter cast. But I use some bigger stuff. I make stuff that looks kind of like a squirrel and different baits here and there, and just something different is what you're trying to get.
Mm-hmm.
I do buy some. Like I used to buy a lot of my stuff, and now I just make 1 or 2 different flies here and there. So I try that. I got some squirrel tails. I'm going to actually try and make something right out of the whole tail itself rather than just the hair. Use the tail for part of it, because a lot of the stuff we use are poppers. So you use baits, and so when you're fly fishing, like I use a popper that's I'd say 1.5 inches long. The popper head itself with about a 3/4 to 1 inch diameter, and then I'll put my hair and stuff in behind, and it'll be 8 to 10 inches long, 6 inches long. Some of them, some of the ones I've caught most on are only 4 inches long.
Yeah. What's your tip on casting a big giant, foot long fly?
I would have to say,
you find it hard? Is it hard or easy?
It's harder. It's way harder. Like I've taken guys out, and like some of the guys that can't come up, they phone me and ask me what kind of flies to use. And I said, well, I use totally any fly at all, just about is what I end up using. And I said, it doesn't make a lot of difference on color and things like that either. But I said, just bring up whatever you use for tarpon. Well, they come up with little wee shrimp baits. I'm thinking, well, that's not going to quite cut it.
Yeah, because you're trying to imitate. I mean, what's the main thing for muskie are you trying to imitate?
You're imitating like small tulipies, like a little whitefish that are like 10 inches long, and they're kind of white and silvery. And then you're imitating, like a lot of things we use are black. And on this lake, black works really good. Like if you're having a hard time fishing, I always tell people go back to black. Just like if you're using a fluorescent green or a white or yellow fly, I said, if you're having a hard time, go back to a black one.
Yeah.
And the ones I have are just pure black. Like I use streamers, like a 6-inch streamer, and it's imitating like a leech kind of thing. That's what it's doing. And that's kind of what you're imitating. The hard part is like some of these baits that people use conventionally fishing, there's nothing in the lake that even looks close to what they're after.
No, they're just flashy. They're just hitting something.
Exactly. It's more of a reaction bite than anything else.
Yeah.
And you got to take it.
What are you using on the fly? What sort of line are you using? Are you using like a sinking line?
I use a sink tip line, and because we're fishing shallow, I want it to sink like maybe 3-4 inches a second kind of thing. That's all I want it to go down.
Uh-huh.
And because you don't have to go very deep. Like I remember when I did the fly fishing show with Colin there, he come up with full sink tip line and everything else.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot about that. So Colin Mckeown, right, from the fly fishing show.
Yep.
The new fly fisher.
Yep.
That's awesome. I'll put a link out to that episode we had with Colin. I can't remember again. I think he actually talked. I can't remember if it was Musky or Pike. I think he did a Musky thing too. So I'll put some resources to some episodes, at least that one we've done.
Yeah. Yeah, it was kind of funny because when we were out fishing and we had a big blow on a storm and the lake gets kind of muddy and things anyway. But he said, "Where do I cast here?" And I said, "Cast right there." So I pointed to a spot for him and he cast and hooks this big muskie. Well, Jeremy is trying to get the camera going because we basically just pulled up to the shore, right? And he casts out about 30, 40 feet to the shore and he hooks this muskie and he's fighting it. And Jeremy's just getting the camera going and he lost it. And he lost it right in front of the boat. So Jeremy's filming Colin and Colin's saying, "Oh, I lost this fish." Da, 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 da. And I keep telling people, keep your eye on your bait all the time. Fish it right to the boat. Well, anyways, Popper's sitting on the water like 25 feet in front of the boat, and you can see the muskie come up and grabbed it again.
Oh, wow.
But he wasn't around to, he's talking to us on the camera kind of thing. So
what's that take when you're doing the figure eight in near the boat on it with a fly? What's that look like?
Well, when you're doing the figure eight, you're kind of you got your rod in the water, and typically I'll have about 1.5 feet to 3 feet of line out, and you're just basically going down and making a big loop around, make a big long figure eight as much as you can. And the longer the rod you have, the easier it is.
Oh yeah.
Like, these conventional guys now, they like a conventional musky rod 20 years ago, 15 years ago was 5.5 to 6.5 foot long rod. Now these guys are showing up with 9, 10, 11, 12 foot rods.
Wow, and that's mainly so they can work the gear. What are they using for? Are they actually using bait, or what are they using?
No, it's all artificial baits. It's big lures and stuff. Like their lures are anywhere from 6.5 inches to 14 inches long.
Yeah, gotcha. So if you're out there fishing and you have to choose, you want to catch a muskie, are you going to have a much better chance to get one on a lure versus a fly?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. They're easier to catch on conventional stuff. Mostly because you have more hooks. Like they've got 3 big treble hooks, whereas a fly you have 1 or 2.
Oh,
what
right.
I do, like when I tie my flies now, I take a treble hook, but I'll cut 1 hook off and just use 2 hooks out of it. And I found it casts way easier that way. And I'll use maybe 2 of those on the fly. So right away you got more weight, which is harder too, because as you know, when you're back casting, if it's too heavy, it's just kills your cat.
Oh, right. And guys are and you said so guys are actually, if they're killing the muskie, are they eating these? Are they good to eat?
No, we don't. Well, they are good to eat. We used to eat them a long time ago, but when we did that study way back in the 80s, I set the limit at 54 inches, and that become our whole lake that come that way is you have to have them over 54 inches even to keep them. And
why is that? That's just so they give them time to produce.
Well, we have a lot of fish that are in that range, and in the 70s, this lake it was one of the best lakes in the world for catching muskies. Really, it really was. It was super popular, and everybody was fishing it for a world record. And that's what people come and fish for now, is trying. Like we have a lot of pro guys that come up from Minneapolis or Minnesota area and Wisconsin that are pro muskie guys and do all the TV shows and all that kind of stuff. And they come up to camp because they want to try and catch a world record fish. And they said, well, that's $1 million fish if I get one. I said, well, $1 million, that doesn't make sense. $1 million. And he goes, all the sponsors we get, my boat, depth finders, all that kind of stuff. And it does make sense after a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're saying that the fishing in the 70s was really good there, and it's not quite as good, but you still have a chance to catch a.
No, it's actually gotten better now.
Oh, it's better than it was.
Yeah. See, when we did the study, we closed the lake for six years because we had radio transmitters in them, and we followed the fish around the lake and did stuff, and we got to learn their patterns really good, and I learned an awful lot because when I was told years ago by all the old musky guys and guides that if there's a muskie in this bay, that's his bay. Well, that's wrong. That muskie will come into that bay, but there'll be like 5 or 6 muskies in that bay.
Yeah.
And
there's like a pecking order.
Well, they hunt like in a pack, like a wolf pack. They push the fish along the shorelines into the bottom of the bay, and then the fish kind of just come right out back out into the middle. Just like a current would, they push them out, and the bigger fish are laying in the middle of that bay waiting for the.
Oh wow! So they're working together.
Oh, they all work together for sure. They do. Yeah, we learned that. That's for sure.
Wow. So for 6 years you closed. I mean, was that kind of? I mean, so you weren't doing. Nobody was. You're doing no guiding or booking trips for fishing.
No, we did fishing. We just closed the season for catch and release. You couldn't do anything. You couldn't keep them at all, eh? Because at that time.
Oh, gotcha.
The original size limit was actually 36 inches to keep them a long time ago. And I said, that's way too low. I want it bigger. So they said, well, what do you want? I said, I want 55 inches. And they said, well, you can't have 55. They went down to 40. So we argued, and I ended up getting it at 54
and who are you arguing with?
With the government, the ministry, setting the...
Oh, wow. So you literally you had some folks there that came in and said, like biologists said, hey, we want at this level. And you were basically coaching them. Yeah,
that's what we did. I did this all with the biologists and ministry people. And
Right. And now I'd imagine 50 years later, whatever, people, they probably have a lot of research. And now is 50 inches still or 55 still the standard?
Yeah, 54 inches is standard. That's what we have now. And it's actually taken over to a lot of the other lakes in the area now too, because for one thing, if you go to a lake where the minimum is 54, you're going to think, wow, there's some big fish in that lake. And if the next lake's minimum 48, they're going to think, well, I'm going to go this one because it's bigger fish. So now they've all kind of gotten into that zone now too. So they made it 54. Most of the lakes in the area now are 54 now, but it took them a long time to get that way.
Right. Got you. Okay. So you have a lake that potentially is, has giant fish, maybe even a world record sort of thing. So that's obviously one good selling point, the size of the fish. And you said the biggest fish, the world record, what did you say it was 60 pounds?
Yeah, it's right around 60 pounds.
Yeah.
What they're looking at. So
okay.
There's 3 or 4 that are in that range, but roughly you're looking 60-pound fish.
Yeah. 60 pounds. Wow. Yeah. Wow. This is cool. So, and like you said, you got conventional fishing, which is the majority. You could fly fish some if you want. And I wonder, so if somebody comes up fly fishing, it sounds like it's a little bit of a do-it-yourself sort of thing.
You can.
Although you could take them out and say, hey, here's definitely the spots. Are the spots that are good conventional also good fly?
Oh yeah. You're fishing the same spots.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cause like I said earlier, like it's all just shallow water.
Yeah. So that's it. If I was to come up or somebody's to come up with you in September, there's a good chance on a fly we could get one on a fly.
Oh yeah. Like you come July, August, September, you're going to have some action. You're going to get some muskies and some pike. And if you want to go for bass, and I even fly fish for walleye.
Exactly. Well, and the walleye is another, I mean, that's definitely a species people love, right? I mean, it's up there, right? Is walleye not quite as popular as pike and muskie, but pretty popular, right?
Walleye is what we base our whole income on.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's like walleye is what people from the Midwest area, they come here for walleye fishing.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Because you can keep a bunch.
Well, you can keep pike, and you can keep bass, and you can keep crappie.
Right.
Like our crappie in our lake are kind of an average of 14 to 17 inches.
Holy cow.
Yeah. The biggest one I've ever caught so far is 20 1/4.
Jeez. You got a photo of that one? You got a photo of that 20-incher?
No, actually, I don't. I let it go again. I threw it back in again. But
wow.
the guys, I had 2 guys with me in the boat. We caught it there.
Yeah.
But I never even
Gosh.
bothered taking pictures. I never thought much about it. Like I caught a 18.5-inch perch years ago, and I did take a picture with that because I was with a biologist, and he made me take a picture. And then I ended up throwing it in. He goes, "Whoa, geez."
Wow. What about lake trout?
We have lake trout lakes all in the area, and I fly fish for those and conventional fish both. I had a guy come up, probably 10 or 12 years ago was the first time he came up, and he comes up every year now and fishes with me for about 4 days for lake trout, and then he does pike and musky on the lake here. But I have some little lakes I go back into. I have the only boat on it. One lake I have since 1972, and the other one was 75. And I'm the only person with a boat on it. So we do very well. But anyway, he phoned me one year and he says, I've been up to Great Slave Lake. I've been here and I've been there, and I want to catch a lake trout on the fly, but I've never been able to do it. They always tell me you can, but I go there and I had never caught one. He said, can you do this? And I said, well, I'm pretty sure I can probably help you out that way, Bill. And so anyway, we come out and we fished, and about this third cast, he caught one, and it was in about 5 feet of water. And he said, can I sight fish for him? I said, well, if we go into this bay here, there's probably some in the boulders. You probably get some. And he got to see it. He cast to it and caught it, and that hooked him. He was done. Yeah. And he ended up buying a trailer and moving it up here and setting up here for this.
Oh, nice. Nice. He's all in. That's amazing. That's a great story. So are there other like fly, again, just going back to the fly, are there fly fishing, like, guides, gurus up in that area, or is it feels like you're kind of just an area that where, I'm not even sure where you would go. If you wanted to dig in like more resources, maybe get a fly guide somewhere else, is that doable, or are there options?
No. Well, as far as I know, Dave, I said, there's nobody else around that fly fishes.
Yeah, that's it. You're just at a spot. You're up far enough there that's just not, hasn't. It probably eventually will. I'm sure it will eventually get there, right? You see it going there?
Well, I do, because like I said earlier, like the northern Minnesota and Wisconsin is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And a lot of it has to do with like guys that have come up and fished with me over the years have gone back down and fished, and then they tell their buddies and they start doing it, and it's gotten bigger. And plus they get the people from the Midwest, like Arkansas area, and that come up and they're fly fishing, and they go to Minnesota to fish, and they're fly fishing there. So people are trying it more. It's just something different. The sport's really starting to grow in this area. It's starting to grow. And, but whenever I'm out fly fishing and a boat goes by and it's like half a mile away or a mile away, which is too close for me as far as I'm concerned. And they'll see, and they'll say, oh, I saw you out fishing the other day. And they said, well, how'd you know it was me? He says, because you're fly fishing.
Yeah.
Everybody else fly fishes.
You're the only one. Huh, that's really cool. So, and, but it's, if you go up there, you're not going to feel like there's a lot of pressure. You can get your spot and have your little chunk of the lake.
That's why it is a popular spot, because people go out and there's nobody. Like I said earlier, if you see 8 or 10 boats, and I'm like, when I said half a mile to a mile away for boats, you're seeing them that far away or more. You don't fish beside.
All right. How big is the lake?
The lake itself is Wabigoon and Dinorwic is joined together. And from one end to the other is 45 miles.
Oh, wow.
And then there's 9 lakes you can get to by boat off of that. So yeah, you got a lot of water.
Today's episode is sponsored by Reyr Gear, not only making telescoping fly rods, but rethinking the whole fly kit as you travel around. And their focus is building lighter, better equipment and to keep you going strong. Their rod is a blend of traditional and Tenkara styles, and they got actually a new rod out. I just talked to Derek. They've got a 7-foot rod right now. He's trying to hit some of that Spring Creek stuff. So I have not actually handled this one, but if it's anything like his current rod, the one that I have been using, it is a nice, solid piece of work. Definitely a unique rod. If you haven't checked it out, you know what we're talking about here. No guides on this thing. The line is internal. The rod collapses down into the size that'll fit in your backpack, fit in your back of your pocket. It's got the reel, the line, everything's on there, but it telescopes out and is ready to fish at a moment's notice. So this has been coming up a few times now over since we've been working with Derek here, and I'm excited to keep sharing this. And I want to get my hands on this new rod as well. He's also got some nets, some folding nets. He's got the wading booties. He's got the full package if you want to get out and do it. So you got to check out Reyr Gear right now and go check it out and support what Derek has going at Reyr Gear. That's REYR gear.com. Check him out right now. Okay, back to the show.
So let's go back. So we're coming in, let's say that September trip, and we want to find, a giant muskie if we can. So, you roll in there, say on a Friday or Saturday, what's that first day look like? Are you getting out on the water like super early?
Oh yeah. Like if you pull into camp and say you come from Minneapolis and you fly in, say Friday night or Friday afternoon to Minneapolis, and a lot of guys will drive up part way up to get out of the city, and the guys will sit around, get a hotel room and have a few beers and, make it part of the trip.
Yeah.
And, they show up here like this. They'll stay like in Virginia, which is 4 hours away from us. So they're here by 11, 12 o'clock in the morning. And within about an hour, you can be fishing.
Right.
Like as soon as you can get your gear ready, the boats are sitting there ready to go. And I would say 95% of the people that fish out of camp fish within a 3-mile radius of camp. You're not traveling very far. Like we have guys that go out and don't go more than a mile from camp, and they're starting to fish. They're doing their thing. So, yeah. And like I said earlier, if I'm going to guide somebody, like I'll show them around just so they get familiar with the lake and what to look for. And so I'll spend one day with them. And typically I do that on a Sunday, because you show up, like Saturdays are changeover days for us. So you're coming in, some people start fishing at noon. Some people start fishing at 3 or 4 in the afternoon. And up here, like if you come up in June, the first part of July, you're fishing till 11 o'clock at night.
Oh, wow. No
Yeah.
kidding. So you got plenty of light too.
If you want to fish, you come like the end of June, like in the middle part of June and into the first part of July, you can fish at 4 a.m. if you want to.
Yeah.
Till 10, 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah, so this is like, pretty much you're far enough up there, you're getting that. And then in the dinner, so you come back, you said you can get this set up where you just come back and dinner's ready sort of thing?
Yeah, you can do that kind of stuff. And like some people like to cook up fish they caught that day. Like we got some of the guys that fly fish, and they'll fly fish for a while, but then to just take a break, they'll stop and they'll jig a little bit and have a sandwich, and they'll jig out a couple of walleyes for supper or a couple of crappie, and they'll have those for, or pike. A lot of guys like eating pike too. They're all good eating fish. So you can have fresh fish every night if you want.
Every night. What about, so talk about the hunting a little bit. If we were when would be the best time if you wanted to do like the cast and blast, right? You want to do some musky and some hunting. What would be the best time?
Yeah, you want to come like the end of August and September is your good time for, like, you can bear hunt. The season starts on the 15th of August for bear hunting. So you can fish then. And then if you want to do in the 15th of September, our grouse season opens. So that's a popular time. The last couple of weeks in September are real popular because then you can do fishing for pike and muskies and walleye. You can grouse hunt, and the trout are starting to move up and they're in shallow water again. See, that's the thing about the lake trout. They'll come up in the spring and fall to when the water's cold. In the fall, they spawn. In October. The season closes at the end of September.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. And that last couple of weeks in September is when I typically do a lot of trout fishing, fly fishing that way. So it's so pretty good.
So you got grouse, bear. You mentioned, what about like deer hunting?
The deer hunting doesn't start until into October.
Yeah.
And stuff. And it starts getting a little, get some really nice days, but it starts getting a little colder then for some people.
Yeah. Grouse would be cool though. Take the shotgun.
Yeah.
That's it, right? The swing out. We were kind of joking about this a little bit, but, we got actually a hunting episode coming up with Jay Scott Outdoors. Well, I guess I'm doing this in the past. So by the time this goes out, it'll already be live. So we did an elk hunting episode. And it's interesting because elk is not the easiest animal to chase. Is elk something that you would have interest in trying, or have you ever gone elk hunting?
Yeah, I do a lot of elk hunting.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I used to go down to Colorado and elk hunting. I take my son down. We had a thing there. A couple of guys from Wisconsin knew this rancher out in Colorado. So we'd go up in through his place and hunt up and behind his place in the national forest there. But there'd be probably 8 or 10 of us. And it was all guys from camp that, like, there were some guys from Texas and actually Washington State. They're from Florida, South Carolina. We'd all meet in Steamboat and then go up in the mountains from there. Right? But it was all people we met through camp that guys all kind of met over the years. And we did that for years and years. And then the rancher died and another guy took over and he didn't let anybody go through there anymore. So that kind of fell apart. So for about 10 years, I went every year and I love elk hunting. It was fun.
Yeah.
It was something totally different. And I would take Sawyer, my son. He shot his first elk when he was about 11 years old. So.
Oh, wow. Jeez. That's pretty cool.
Well, we went down. We also have an outpost cabin that you can actually drive to and have your own cabin, your own lake. And it sleeps up to 10 people. And it's really super popular.
Oh, on Wabigoon?
No, it's on a different lake altogether. It's about 50 miles from our camp. So we drive into it and you have your own cabin. It's like I said earlier, it sleeps 10 people. It's 24 by 40. You can put 10 people at the kitchen table. And I got all the boats there. And we get a lot of guys go there fly fishing too for pike. And it's mostly pike and walleye there.
Oh, pike and walleye.
Yeah.
And you mentioned wolf hunting. Is that something that's pretty popular?
It's very popular. Yeah.
It is. And what do people do? Is a wolf, I imagine you're not eating a wolf.
No, you don't eat it. It's just a hide pretty much.
Yeah, it's just a hide. You got a wolf.
It's a trophy thing, but we have a lot of them, and we have too many of them almost, it seems like so.
Yeah. And what are wolves? What's the negative of having too many wolves?
Well, they're hard on the deer population and moose population.
Yeah, and moose.
Well, they'll decimate the deer population in a heartbeat once you get to be too many of them. So
right. These are whitetails? These are
whitetail, yeah. Yeah. And most of the whitetail we get, like an average whitetail here for us, like field dressed, is around 270 pounds field dressed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
270 pounds. That's a big animal.
Yeah. I shot one that was 4 1/4, which was the 11th largest deer ever shot. And, but a lot of our deer go 385 pounds, 350.
Huh.
Yeah. They get some big ones.
So why do you think it is on so you got these big deer, you got these big musky. Why do you think the musky are so big? Do you think it's just at your lake?
Just genetics. It's all genetics.
Yeah.
There's a lake that's, maybe 20 miles cross country from us. It's chock full of muskies, but to try and catch a 30-incher would be pretty hard. Most of them are all 25, 28 inches. But it's just a little wee lake, but it's full of muskies. And but that, like I said, they're just small. And it's a landlocked lake. And I guess they got in there somehow years ago, like from a bird dropping something or whatever. And the lake isn't big enough to support big fish. And Wabigoon's got a lot of...
Yeah, it's a big lake.
Well, it's got a lot of feed. Yeah, there's 18 different species of fish in the lake between minnows and fish itself. So there's a lot of fish. Yeah. I don't know if you know Bob Azumi and Mariko Azumi.
Oh, yeah, I've heard that name.
Yeah, they're kind of like Al Linder and Bill Dance of Canada.
Uh-huh.
They've come up and done shows with us over the years, and they couldn't believe the amount of bait fish and how alive the lake was with stuff.
Oh, wow. Right on. Well, this is pretty cool. I think I feel like we've covered a decent amount. Anything else you want to give a heads up on, with your the cabins or the fishing up there or hunting?
Well, the cabins, they're all self-contained cabins. Like I said, they come with everything you need in them. And they got all the covered decks, gas grills. I sent you a picture last night of the sunset. Did you get that?
Oh, yeah, I saw that. Yeah, that was awesome.
That's your view off the cabin decks.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll put a link to that in the show notes for this episode. People can take a look.
Yeah, so they're all self-contained that way. And like I said earlier, if you want meals, we have meal packages. Some people want just the dinners when they come in. The thing is, I guess kind of different from us than like a lot of places, is you don't have to come in at a certain time to eat. And like people want to fish. You want to fish, and you're in a really good spot, and say you've raised a muskie and it's 4:30. You don't want to leave that and come to camp for supper at 5:00.
No.
So that's kind of why people like to do their own thing and have things set aside. And there are times when we have meal plans where, okay, you're going to come in for like 7:00, but then some people want to fish till 10 or 11:00 at night. So it's hard. It's really hard to keep everybody happy that way. So most people do their own thing.
Yeah.
But we have some groups that want me to guide them every day, and I do. And they want meals and shore lunch, all that kind of stuff. So we provide anything you want, basically, we provide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can imagine that would be, some people would love that. Yeah, just have the food ready so they can just fly in and even get guided, right? And you mentioned, so how did that thing, so Colin McKeown, I actually looked at it, Colin McKeown, he actually did Atlantic salmon, but his Bill Spicer did a muskie episode.
Yeah. Yeah, he did a muskie episode there too. So
those guys came up to your area and you kind of fished with them.
He did the muskie. I can't remember where he did the muskie one out of. I can't remember that. I remember watching it, but I can't remember where lake he was on. I think he was down more in southern Ontario, down near Kawartha Lakes. There's some that are kind of about, maybe 100 miles north of Toronto. And they have some lakes there. And they catch them there. And they'll catch them up to 40 inches down there. They'll get some nice fish. But so the reason people come up here is because they have a chance to catch bigger fish. And it's not a busy lake. Like, there's not people all over the place. That's the thing. They want to, you go to Canada, you want to have your own space, your own thing.
Right.
Like, there's times Merkel and I, like last 2 falls ago, this store here, we're fishing, and we're just jig fishing and just sitting around in the evening. It's in September, and there's nobody on the lake. There's not a soul anywhere, not a breath of wind. And we're talking and doing things, and she starts talking to our daughter on the cell phone, and all of a sudden the minnows are jumping. And I said, Merkel, hang up the phone and start fishing, because there's something big here. So all of a sudden we're getting like 2 and 3 pound walleyes jumping out of the water. And I said, okay, that's it. So I picked up my fly rod and started casting. She saw that. She said, I got to go. She hung up right away and started picking up a rod, and she started fishing.
Yeah.
Because she knew something big was in the area. I'm looking one way and I'm fishing away. And she says to me, she says, where'd the boat go? And I said, what boat? She goes, the boat that makes that wave over there. And I looked over and said, there's no boat. Look at that. And she said, oh my God, that's a fish. I said, yeah. And we could see if the fish was probably 80 inches. So I'm guessing that fish was close to 100 inches.
No kidding.
It was pushing a 10-inch wake on the water. And then we fished for it for probably close to an hour trying to find it. And then we saw it just about 100 yards from us, and it had about a 35-inch northern in its mouth, and it was eating it.
Oh, wow. So you're talking like like an 8-foot fish.
Yeah. We've seen them right here at the dock that are that big. From the house, you look down at the dock and you can see the fish laying beside the dock.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it seems like the, the big muskie is definitely a cool point to be thinking about. And then date wise, I think, mid-September to end of September would be cool, because then it sounds like it's a pretty diverse time. The weather's still good. You can get some hunting in. Yeah.
You get a little hunting, do a little cast and blast. And there's not too many places you can actually do that, where you can go out for a few hours, get a few grouse, and come back and fish a little bit and do that kind of stuff. So,
yeah. What's the name of a good lure for muskie that people, if somebody wanted to grab a lure, what would be that one?
Well, lures, like a top raider.
Top raider?
Yeah, top raider. Swick. A Swick bait is probably number one.
How do you spell Swick?
It's Swick.
Oh, Swick. Yeah, Swick. Okay.
Yeah. And all it is, it's literally a piece of wood. It's about 5/8 of an inch thick and about an inch across and about 12 inches long. It's like if you took a broom handle and squared it off and put some hooks on it. But a black one of those is like dynamite. It's just
that black.
Yeah.
Black Swick. Wow. And on the hunting, are you guiding people for hunting too?
Yeah. I take people out, show them where to go and do things. And once again, like, like one day once you learn kind of what you're looking for, where you're going, and I set them up, they can go do their own thing. But I take people out, like some of the guys that come up, they want me to go every day with them. And I said, okay, well, because they want to go somewhere different all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can take them around.
Grouse hunting, you can go down the same old trail 5 days in a row and there'll still be birds on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so is it just you? I mean, who out there, like, as you look ahead, or do you have other folks that are going to come in and keep the lodge going in the long term?
Well, our son and daughter, they're kind of looking at it and doing, their son is for sure. And next year will be 60 years. And I've been here since day one. Like when we first opened up camp, we came by boat for the first 2 years because there's no road here. Like my grandparents and my parents had nothing to do with it. It was my grandfather and my grandmother and myself that built the camp. And we come by boat and built the cabins.
Oh, wow. So when you get up there, because there's a highway, isn't Highway 17 just north of you?
Yeah. Highway 17 is only like a mile and a half across country.
So was that there back in the day in the 60s?
That was there, but it was gravel.
Oh, right. So you had a gravel. So that highway was gravel. So basically there was no road into, and then your grandparents boated to that point because you're on a pinnacle out on the island. And then what'd they do? Did they just purchase the property? Actually,
my grandfather bought it sight unseen. It was a mining claim. Like this area was kind of developed back in the late 1800s. It was a mining claim. It was patented in 1896, and he ended up buying it sight unseen. And him and I come by boat to look at it one day.
Wow! Do you remember what he paid for it?
He paid $5,000 for it back.
$5,000 in 1963.
Yeah, he bought it in 62, and we opened camp 63. Yeah,
in 63. And what if you were to sell it? You probably don't want to ever sell it, but if you were to sell it, you get more than $5,000 out of that thing, probably.
Yeah, probably. I might double my money.
Yeah. That's right. So 60 years is pretty cool. I mean, a lot of the people listening now probably are, there's definitely some people that that were born at that time, but I mean, that's a long time, and are you, as you look out, do you see yourself just doing this, till the end of the day, or are you going to kind of retire from this thing? Like the guiding? It's
hard to retire because most of the people they come up to see us kind of thing and do things. That's a big part of it. Like we have 14 3-generation groups coming up like regularly.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And we got 11 4-generation groups. Like we have people that have been coming. Well, one of the couples that just left about 2 weeks ago, they were up here and they've been coming up here since 1965.
Wow.
And we have lots of people have been coming. Like our average, like some people have only been coming for maybe 2 or 3 years, but some people are coming for 30, 35, 40 years. Like we have one guy that's come up and he came up 30 years ago. He's got his spring trip that he came up this spring on was his 168th trip up here.
Wow.
In 30
168.
Years. And he's from Wichita. And they'll drive up 2 and 3 times a year.
Oh, no kidding. That's really cool. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is awesome. It sounds like a pretty amazing place. You're up there, and you got wolves out there. You ever hear the wolves howling at the moon?
Oh, we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Pretty cool sound, isn't it?
There was a big pack across on a couple of the islands a couple summers ago, and we would sit by the fire, and like a lot of times in the evening we have a fire spot there, and we sat around there, and you could hear them for like 2 or 3 weeks. They would howl, and then they kind of moved off that island, so it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Right up in front of camp, it wasn't very far away.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the wolves. I love it. Definitely. We had some good Canadian wolf interactions on the other side of Canada. But so what about, I got my one random one for you today is before we get out of here is on sports. Are you a hockey fan?
I'm hockey. I played OHL hockey.
Uh-huh.
I went up that far, and then I ended up hurting my knee that summer on construction. And that was the end of my hockey career. But yeah, we play hockey. We play basketball, volleyball. My daughter played university volleyball.
Oh, wow.
Both my kids have played competitive hockey.
Oh, was your daughter, was she kind of up slamming the ball at the net, or kind of more on the back end?
She did everything. She never left the court. Yeah, when she was first year in university, she never left the court. She was on the whole time. The coach actually called me at Christmas time and said she won Rookie of the Year. And I said, well, it's only Christmas. He said, she's got so many stats, nobody can even come close to her.
No kidding. What university was this?
In Thunder Bay, LakeLady University.
Oh, yeah, Thunder Bay, right.
Yeah. And she's getting married here on the 10th of September. And Ryan Thompson, he's the head coach for the university team. That's how they met. She played volleyball.
Oh, no kidding.
He played
wow.
And he was just out in Vancouver for the summer coaching a men's professional team for Canada.
Oh, wow.
The summer league. That's all NBA guys and D-League people.
Oh, so you're talking basketball now?
Yeah, that's basketball, yeah.
Oh, wow. So your son-in-law is a basketball coach?
Yeah. They were down in Maine, and he was a player development coach for the Celtics farm team for the Red Claws. And they were doing that for a couple of years, and then he's back up here again doing coaching here. And
oh, man.
They'll be around for a while.
Yeah. So are they is the wedding being held up at the camp?
Yeah.
Oh, it is. Do you do weddings? Do people come up there for weddings?
Well, we try not to. We keep getting people. This will be the first one we have. We've turned people away because the hard part is it's a weekend and they want like a Thursday, Friday, Saturday kind of thing. And that takes up 2 whole weeks of our camp because we're turning on Saturday. So it's hard to do. Right. So we're closing camp. First time ever we close camp for 2 weeks.
There you go. 2 weeks for the big. Well, it's worth it. Yeah. Obviously your daughter's getting married. That's huge.
Yeah. Yeah. It'll be fun.
That's great. This is really cool. Well, I think I definitely want to come up there like we talked. This sounds like a pretty awesome trip. And I think hopefully anybody that's listening now, if it sounds interesting to them, we'll have them maybe send an email out to you or call you and let you know they heard you on the podcast here. And, hopefully we'll get a few people headed your way. But yeah, I think I'm going to, keep in touch with you here. Anything else you want to leave us off with, before we head out of here?
No, not really. It was just fun talking to you. And if anybody's interested in coming up, we'll show you a good time. That's for sure.
All right, Terry. All right. Well, thanks for all the time today, and we'll catch up with you soon.
Take it easy, Dave. Thanks a lot, bud.
So there we go. There's some good stuff. wetflyswing.com/356. 356 will get you some show notes, get you some links we talked about, and you can maybe see a photo of what this Merkel's camp looks like. Before we start to roll on out of here, I want to give a shout out today. Ryan, buddy, I'm going to give you a giant, circle high five, and then a leg slap high five. You know what I'm talking about? Ryan reached out on email and said he loved a recent Stillwater episode, had a couple questions from it. And I checked back with Ryan, and it was just awesome to have a quick chat there. I hope, Ryan, you're having a good time getting out there on the water. And if you want to check in with me and get a potential shout out here, you can reach me at dave@wetflyswing.com or on social media. Just let me know. I'd love to hear from you, here, see what you're doing, see what you have going, and see how we can help serve you through this podcast. We have a little trivia challenge. We got a little trivia challenge going with Togans. You can enter the trivia challenge and get a chance to win one of their $100 fly tying packs at Togans. Check it out right now and go see what they have going. Time to start rolling along here. I just got off a meeting with the team. We got a small little team here, Dom and Thea, and we had a nice chat about what we have going in this upcoming year, how we're going to keep serving you better and keep doubling down on what we have going. So always, I like the open door policy, just like with everybody here on our little team. The door's wide open, so if you ever want to come into the office and check in with me, kick your feet up on the table, kick back in that chair, and just maybe have a drink and pick my brain, and I can pick your brain, and we can get ready and get that fishing trip rolling. I hope you're getting ready to go on a big fishing trip, and I hope that maybe you can let me know. You can check with me anytime online, like I noted, or maybe we can catch you on one of these trips we have coming up this year. If you're interested in any of those, we can do that. So I hope you are having a good afternoon, a good evening, or a good morning, wherever in the world you are. I will talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to the Wet Fly Swing Fly Fishing Show. For notes and links from this episode, visit wetflyswing.com.